Welcome everyone to this Power Boost meditation on alone but not lonely. And if you have seen this image just before we came on, it actually conveys a big part of the message already. Our experts tell us that apart from the COVID pandemic, there is another epidemic going on. And that has been going on before COVID started. And it is a bit more quiet and slow, but increasingly spreading all over. And we have less answers for that than we now have for COVID. And that is the staggering increase of mental health problems in society and worldwide, actually. But even the numbers in the US are quite worrisome. And within that, of course, depression and anxiety and the numbers of suicide, they don't lie. But within that, the epidemic, the pandemic, the COVID pandemic has as if highlighted certain problems that were already on the increase. And one area that has been highlighted is, of course, being alone and loneliness. Because of the lockdown all over and more everything had to be done through internet. Lots of people have had to learn to deal with being alone and with loneliness. Now, it is useful to know that there are people who choose to be alone, like nuns or some inventors or great thinkers and even scientific researchers from the past. Maybe at present still there may be some. And within the religious contexts, monks and nuns, they choose to be alone. They choose solitude because they feel it helps them reflect deeply on things, or they feel that they can fill that space with something higher than the sometimes chatter and complications that we can experience in human company. And so they choose being alone because there are deeper benefits, there are higher insights and achievements that they have when they are alone or in solitude. And so they don't feel lonely. It is not that they feel their life is not worth anything or that they are not appreciated, but they fill that time and that experience and that solitude with something higher. But at the same time, we need others, or we want company to share our ideas and insights and to explore certain things further. We also want interactions. And so it is not that being alone is a state that is always and in all circumstances natural. We are social beings. But if we have a bigger perspective on life, If we not see life as we're going from one point to the next point and it has to be a straight line and that's it. But if we begin to see life from a bigger perspective, see life as a variety of experiences, maybe even experience ourselves as a traveler, going through many different experiences. And then there is a time for interactions, there may be a time for party, there may be a time for solitude also. It is a different experience, and we can see it as an adventure and part of the larger journey of the traveler. A traveler who is enriched by all kinds of experiences and doesn't need to have the same type of environment, the same type of circumstances all the time. And so in that context, we could have experienced a period of relative solitude, a period of being alone as just a new challenge or a different adventure, new experiences and new lessons to learn, a certain enrichment, knowing that it will not last forever. But there is another side to this whole thing of being alone but not lonely. And a quote by a French philosopher, writer, Jean-Paul Sartre, it pinpoints this side. And the quote is the following: if you are lonely when you are alone, then you are not in good company. If you feel lonely when you are alone, then you are not in good company. And this is actually where spirituality comes in and also pinpoints this area. Is in fact, how good company are you for yourself? Are you able to enjoy your own mind? Or are we horrified by our own thoughts? And this is what sometimes happens. No, you can sometimes people just watch and watch and watch television ongoing, or listen to certain things, or just to kind of distract themselves from themselves, because we cannot be good company for ourselves. Or in interactions with others, a certain state of mind where we become desperate and we cling on to people that may actually result in the opposite of what we know. We are not pleasant company for others, so we find ourselves alone, and we kind of, in our desperation, we try to be in company, but it suffocates others. And so that starts actually with being good company for ourselves. If we can be good company for ourselves, then others will also enjoy our company. But if we cannot even be good company for ourselves, how can we expect or demand maybe sometimes that we are good company for others? And so this is where we might need to do some self-schooling, educating ourselves, taking a look again at our own nature and the condition of our mind. Now, one factor within us, which is called ego, or this limited ID of who I am. When we start to identify or start to get attached to things that are temporary, then we start feeling insecure, and we start easily get into a feeling of desperation and even a beggar mindset or a victim mindset. And that beggar is not good company for the self, not for others. That ego inside, which is based on identification and on bondage and on attachment to perishable things, expectations and desires. When we create that out of a certain spiritual ignorance, we as if spoil our innate personality of peace, our innate personality of joy and creativity and kindness and loving, a certain childlike, innocent nature. It gets spoiled when we get into these false identities and desperate attachments. And a mind that is full of desires and expectations is always anxious. It is always complaining. And we create thoughts from that desperation, and we ourselves don't like our own company. Now, how will someone else then enjoy our company? And so a more balanced life would be, there are times that I am alone and the times that I'm in solitude, where I as if refocus, where I do some self-schooling and educate my mind, where I reflect on deeper truth of the self, where I experiment with this consciousness of a traveler or this consciousness of a guest. Not the real self, the soul is a guest in this world. So why identify and get attached to perishable things? Everything is temporary here. Let me begin to see the self as this beautiful traveler, a spiritual being, and live from that awareness where we are clear of our timeless and imperishable nature as a soul and the dimension beyond, and try and grasp that perspective from the beyond. So in those times of being alone, when we reflect on that, when we experiment with that, and when these feelings of peace and freedom and security can be nurtured in that meditative, silent, reflective state. And when those more beautiful feelings become more dominant in our mind and in our behavior and our nature, we will naturally also want to share that, but others will also enjoy our company. So let us take some time, few minutes, to deeply reflect and come back to this essence of the self as a spiritual being. And so externally, all different things may be going on, and we accept that. There may be sound and movement, people walking in, people walking by. All of that is fine. But we choose for a few moments to as if step back and look inside. and reflect on this. Spiritual concept of self, the invisible experiencer, as a traveler, the being of consciousness, the soul. This body is vehicle. There are many different situations and circumstances on the journey. But in every situation, there's something to learn, something to experiment, something with which I can enrich the self. No need to hold on or to get attached or to identify. Even the body is temporary. Just for a few moments, fill the mind with this image. Tiny star, conscious, pure, still, light. This living light needs nothing to exist. So it's peaceful, at ease, while traveling through the different scenes, the drama of life. Just for a few moments with a certain feeling of fascination and conviction, hold this image. Tiny star, traveler, immersed in silence and light. Thank you. And enjoy the ongoing journey while sometimes traveling alone and sometimes traveling with others. Have a good day.